All right, everybody, we are back with Startup Brothers number 18, the big DS Ocho, ESPN, the 18 Ocho.
Good to see
Yes, like to make
everybody
fun of stuff.
again. We took a
Yep.
quick hiatus because my big bro just had a baby girl,
Oh, yeah, that's why
and
we're
there's
doing this
nothing more
late night.
important. Yeah, you could tell
Exactly,
her.
yes. Thank you. My second child, baby girl, she's 7 weeks old now, so I'm on paternity leave. I'm home spending time with my kids. That's phenomenal. They're a lot of fun, and they keep me young, right? All
Ooh.
these grays, but it does give me time to focus in between feeding, some sleeping, and lots of play. Kind of keep tabs on what's going on in the world. I haven't forgotten about you, even though I haven't been in the city as often as I have in the past. That's where Max comes in. He's our operator, and he's our networker, and he's our eyes and ears. He's our boots on the ground.
Yeah, no, it's fun being boots on the ground during the past 2 or 3 years. You really, really learn a lot between building a business still 7.5 years in the making, learning about everybody else's business, and wishing I started a business now doing something similar because of the power of one, reading some of my favorite people's newsletters, blogs, and watching podcasts. I feel like I've become even more powerful as people have become a
You're a
lot more
sponge.
transparent in
Yeah.
these harder times. Transparency seems to be sexy right now because it shows that we're all human, but it
Yep.
also allows us to see the reality of what is actually going on and what is actually
Yeah, so you're boots on the ground, you're meeting all these people, they're being transparent, right? It's kind of odd where like everyone's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" We're killing it. It's going great. And now everyone's like, it's not so good." And we're like, we knew it wasn't.
yeah.
Money can only obfuscate issues that you have in a business, which money cheats time. But as I wrote in other newsletters, and I love Dr. Strange, like all debts come due. The bill always
Mm,
comes due. You overhired, you didn't launch your product fast enough, you didn't push your customers fast enough, you didn't try and sell. So many issues that
yeah.
it was easy money, and now you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have hired, probably should have kept my cash burn low. I'm trying to raise
Yep.
a bridge round. As we've said before in the last month or two since we've done this, like nothing's really changed. If anything, it's almost, I would say, gotten worse because everyone's trying to go for bridge rounds. It's summertime. People are still trying to enjoy the weather. In New York, there's a little bit of a
Yeah.
rough fall and winter, but things haven't changed. The stock market just hit an all-time high today. If you're in the tech startup world, it
Records.
does not feel like that at all. I'm writing a newsletter this week about big tech, as we were just discussing. They're crushing it right now. They are leaner, they are meaner, they're investing in everything. And as you said before, good data in, good data out. They have it all and they are taking full
Yeah.
advantage. They are competing with each other. This is something we haven't seen in the decade where like Apple and Microsoft, great, but then you're throwing Amazon in there, you're throwing Meta in there,
Yeah.
throwing Google in there, and now Nvidia as well, like picks and shovels. They're competing. They have a purpose, they have a soul again, and
Yeah.
they have a goal, and the goal is to win the public perception, maybe some revenue, and be the number one app for consumers of B2B. But yeah, this is like the Cold War of big tech right now.
Yeah, it used to be startup versus startup. You have the bulls and you got the
Yeah.
horns and you're ramming into each other. But now it's to the point where you can't really compete. I just was sent a pitch deck and it's seed five. And I go,
I
I've never heard of
actually haven't
that
seen
one
that.
before. And, I did some digging, and the truth is, it's exactly as scary as it sounds. The founder was down to 7.4% equity. And I was saying, why would you even want to build this anymore? I read the term sheet. It was as poaching and as sharky as humanly possible. But these are the times where the money speaks louder than ever because it's not free anymore.
Pendulum swings back and forth. We went way too far. Founder friendly. Here's a safe, no terms. Come back if it works. We'll fund you. No problem. Yeah, I'm seeing a traditional seed one, seed two, bridge, pre Series A. usually.
Yeah.
That's what I'm helping most of my companies right now is the goalposts have moved. I tweeted about it, I wrote in my last newsletter as well that I had a company
Yeah.
6 months ago. At the end of last year, they said, "Great, you got to get to 3 to 5 million by the end of Q1. We'll fund you." Q1 comes around, hit 3 to 5 million, actually closer to almost five, growing 100% year over year. Signed to big clients that they said they would.
Yep.
Investors said, "Great, now do 5 to 7 million." But they spent the money assuming they said, "We will fund you." And it takes a year to grow 100% year over year. So it's going to take another 6 months, hopefully, conservatively, by the end of the year now to hit 5 to 7, which they will. That's the goal, the expectation, and what they've projected. But how do you know that they're going to get the funding? And they already spent a lot of the money, so they have to get even leaner. They had to fire some people, and they're trying to raise a bridge because the VCs had to do this, XYZ.
And they
They did
did.
it. Things change unless it's in paper, on writing. Even then, it doesn't really matter. Until the money is in your bank account, it's not real. So that's what we're trying to do and try and set expectations accordingly because these aren't AI companies. We, MYVP, our family investments, we have a few AI companies, most of which in the
Yeah.
last few years. But the way I look at AI and startups is if you're pitching me AI, I'm Trace
Yeah.
Cohen. I'm no one special when it comes to AI and deep tech. You're not going to make it. So the two AI I found, I reached out to them proactively. I tweeted them, and we invested. And so far, so good. But it is tough for anybody else that's not sexy right now.
And as you mentioned, so far so good. I'm more entrenched in the CPG world. And how many founders are telling me that, we're doing, the best we've ever done, but we're about to go out of business.
Yeah.
And it's not going out of business because the product market fit isn't there. It's they're simply running out of cash. And a specialty that I've had over the years that I've learned from, NYVP, Trace, and some investors, and especially over the past 3 to 4 years, is cut down to the bone, but stay optimal, stay efficient. You have to take on the extra work.
Yep.
You can't outsource everything. But then there's actually the opposite of new outsourcing where you go overseas. Yes, it's not great for the American economy when it comes to workers, but I believe unemployment's relatively low. We're bringing back some more physical labor jobs in the
Yep.
United States. But the teams overseas have kept my business afloat. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
have been encouraging it more and more to companies that I'm working with because there's no reason to pay a social media manager $4,000 a month in the US when you could pay somebody overseas $400 a month. And they're using apps, plugins, and technology that I've never even heard of, but it's more efficient than anything I've ever used or learned about.
Yep.
They are completely on top of their game. And in the best case scenario, if you find somebody that you could trust and love and make them part of your business, two things. One, you really don't have to give them any equity in many cases. I don't even know if you can overseas and what the rules are per se. But as I wrote in a blog earlier this year, they work proud. They think it is so cool that they work for a tiny little CEO in New York City, but we talk every single day and we
Yep.
become best friends and we become like family. I've never met them, and they are the ones that got me out of some of my darkest moments, my hardest moments, but with the full foot on the acceleration. They are
Yep.
so proud and hard and work so hard for me that it's the new trend that is going to help, if not save, startups from running out of money.
Yeah, and you found some great people. It took a while, but now that we got them
Yeah,
in place, as we have found many startups, you got to churn. You hire fast, you fire fast, and you find the right people.
yeah,
You enable them. And to your point about CPG, it's definitely fallen out of favor in the
yeah,
startup world, and rates really hurt it. 5% rates hurt VCs and SaaS companies, but for CPG, it really hurt it. Like your shipping costs during COVID actually, while stocks and technology kind of got cheaper, shipping was more difficult, then went
yeah,
down. It's kind of hovering. Um, a lot of consumer products are now realizing that The growth is very difficult. Inventory management and timing is very difficult. So they're going
Yeah.
to B2B. You know the B2B space very well. So generally, when I ask and meet and ask a new CPG founder who's getting into B2B or considering, I'm like, great. Do you know that if you work with XYZ, Walmart, Target, any of them, you have to have 3 to 6 months worth of inventory. So not just
Yeah.
inventory for yourself, you have to have it just for them. And they're like, what? Wait, what are you talking about? You got to restock it. You
Yeah.
can't make them look bad. They have their own separate terms. That's a huge issue as well. But definitely more money in the B2B space. So that is where a lot of them are going. And kind of ironically, a bunch of the IPOs in the last year or so have somewhat been consumer
Yeah.
oriented, right? Reddit, not a B2B business. Instacart, direct to consumer, right? Not as B2B. Clavio, kind of B2B, but that is more for email marketing to send out, which is built on
Direct to
direct to
consumer and
consumer
Shopify.
businesses. That's what it's thriving on. Um, but also all of your advertising. I assume 99% of your ads are Facebook, Google. Yeah, that's it.
And Instagram, which is Facebook, which is Meta, right?
Exactly. Right.
And I just saw an announcement today that Instagram is no longer a social media platform.
Nope.
It is an advertising platform. They are starting to charge direct to consumer businesses for better analytics, for better reach, for better
Yep.
placement on a monthly subscription fee. Back to our
Right.
conversation last podcast. Businesses, whether it's AI or really any sustainable business, comes down to some sort of long term contract or subscription fee.
Lock them in. Yep. That's definitely kind of what we like to say, the net retention. So, like, you have a client, you don't want churn, especially in the B2B business. We at the large scale, when you look at their businesses, their net retention should actually be over 100%. And what does that
Mm-hmm.
mean? It means that you keep all of your clients, but one client is at 10,000, then they go to 12,000, 15, 20, 100,000. So you're keeping your clients, you're growing your clients, and you're increasing the size of the overall pie. And so that's what these companies want to do. They want to lock you in. They need more predictable
Yeah.
revenue. Instagram, this is one of those perfect examples of like big tech and Zuck being the GOAT. 100%, no question, especially now. His PR branding is like
On
shirts,
point.
his jackets. He's back to foiling. He's doing his kung fu, like crushing it. He bought Instagram for $1 billion. Everyone called him crazy. Google it. 2010, 11, 12. $1 billion, 90 people, no revenue. Instagram probably, if Meta is worth what, 600 billion today, at least half of that, Instagram. They copied Reels from Snapchat. People joke that Snapchat was the greatest product manager to ever work at Meta. Same
Yeah.
thing with TikTok. TikTok is crushing it. If we ban it or whatever, divest
Guess who
it to US,
benefits?
who is going to benefit? What stocks went up? Snapchat, Meta. They are just going to keep sucking it up. And he took a huge bet with the Reality Labs. Great. He could spend 40 billion on it, rebrand the company, and tank the stock. And everyone's like, "Oh, I was wrong. He had fun. Go back up." What's the top five best AI? Llama from Facebook, Meta, and their AI
Yep.
labs. They're crushing it behind the scenes. They've hired these people for years, but now they're shining because AI is cool. It wasn't this weird geeky thing that didn't know what to do with it. Now they're saying it's subscription will target better.
Yep.
99% of revenue, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google, and every other
10.
major company, Reddit, is advertising. How do I target you better?
But they grew
That's
these
it.
businesses when it was allowed to grow at all costs and figure out how to monetize later. And it turns out essentially the only way to monetize is not selling goggles to make money or sell Google Glass or anything too fancy.
Yep.
It's to advertise because there doesn't seem to be much overhead. Everyone always asks me, what would be the next business you start? Something that has no inventory and no major overhead.
Yep.
It's just too simple of a concept. You charge $4,000 a month, you make $4,000 a month, and it's just your time. And you're
Yep.
trading time for hours. And of course, you want to see if there's a way to iterate it where you make money in your sleep as well. That's obviously the ultimate goal, it seems like, for everyone. But even in the direct to consumer world, of course, that started to go around retail. But I was just told by one of my friends that they finally got their product, their dog treat into Petco. And everyone's telling them, do not go with Petco. Why? They're having their own problems. They can't sustain their own business, which requires them not paying their vendors on time, which
Ugh.
creates sour relationships across the whole ecosystem. So for direct to consumer, we have to rely now mostly on Shopify and Amazon. And Amazon is a moving target. They
Yep.
keep changing the arena. What game are we playing? We don't know. You have to stay so on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder and harder. And then behind the scenes at Shopify, I believe they just crashed 15, 16% last earnings, when really they are the GOAT and really the only major option in the direct to consumer world. And we
Yep.
know direct to consumer is actually only climbing as an
Right.
industry.
Right, but how fast and by what margin and what companies? There's no shortage of direct to consumer CPG startups. And one major issues, as you said, was the line of credit. Right, you have to figure out what your inventory is, buy it ahead of time it 30, 60, never in terms of payments. And your retail, I got into a big retail. Oh no, oh crap, they're not going to pay me. What am I
Yeah,
supposed to do? I need the money. And then it completely shuts you off. And so you have a line of credit and debt and that kind of builds it up. And same thing kind of happens in the tech world where you have technical debt where like, okay, I'll skip around this API. I won't do it properly. I'll build out the database later. We see it all the time where like, well, then you hit scale and things break and then you have to go in and actually fix it. So there are tangentials in terms of software where it's like, oh, I'll just build software. It'll be so much easier. You could build crappy software. You can build phenomenal software. And then the
yeah,
scaling is an issue as well. Where like the site goes down. You're like, great, I just lost customer confidence. I just lost on X amount of sales. If I outsource it, I got to get them on the phone. If I insource it, hopefully I have an amazing CTO and an engineering team, depending on my size, get this back up and running. Right. I had to grow my servers. Amazon AWS, they change. They charge you crazy amounts. Just servers alone puts companies out of business. If you're trying to do
yeah,
AI, one of our investments, Hyperite, other side, like he's like, oh yeah, let me run a test and see how this is going. Okay, that's $1,000 for just a test, which is cheap. Great, startups very efficient, but like you're burning through servers, and if you're not good at making it efficient,
yeah,
it eats into your margin. But yes, you're right. It's SaaS, software as a service. I'll stack it. It's boring. It takes time, but hopefully they're going to set it and forget it and they use it if you could build a product they actually want.
yeah,
There's a product graveyard. I can't imagine how many billions, trillions lines of code are out there sitting on the internet, websites not shut down, literally just zombie websites of code from all the companies that have ever built websites just sitting there. Such a waste. You can't even clean and purge it. Same with, I guess, CPG as well. And so who's winning? The big companies,
yeah,
as well they should be. The 1,200 unicorns that we currently have, companies worth a billion plus, most of them, I believe, really only about 10% of them are going to be in a
true.
position in the next 2 years to IPO or get acquired. 90% of them will not return VC capital, will not be a hit, will go bankrupt, be acqui-hired, probably not because M&A from a
Yeah,
regulatory standpoint, which is 99% of all exits, keeps getting blocked. Once again, Plaid was blocked, Figma was blocked, everything is getting blocked. And I just actually read, as I was doing research on the newsletter I'll be putting out shortly about big tech, the FTC put together a phenomenal, like the Federal Trade Commission, put out a phenomenal overview because they took data that we have that's from private, as best they can, PitchBook and others, and they actually subpoenaed the big tech companies to be like, who did you acquire and for how much? You have to tell us for the FTC. And it was to make an argument that they've acquired so many companies over the years, get the pricing, why they
yeah,
acquired them, talent, and basically say you got to stop acquiring these companies. But then there's a huge bottleneck. If they can't acquire companies and they're just getting harder, better, faster, stronger without them, it's kind of a catch 22. I don't need to acquire you. And with
yeah,
AI, they're already dominant at it. Like very few startups. You have OpenAI, Anthropic, and a few others, like a dozen. And they're the only way they can compete is Oh, your pre-product, you worked at DeepMind or AI at Google, Microsoft, or Meta. Here's $200 million.
Yeah.
This is the only way you can compete to be a fly in the wall. Here's $200 million, $1 billion valuation, because you got to go hire an engineer. They're going to be $1 million each, and then your computing is going to be $1 million a month. So between all of that, $200 million will be gone in a year. It's the only
And
way you
if
can compete.
these companies were that powerful and that smart before AI, if I'm probably 70% smarter and faster with AI.
Yeah,
Across all of the platforms I use, I almost feel like a superhuman, and I could get things done twice as fast. I could do three times as many emails that are perfectly written. I could create blog posts. I can create a whole master plan of my marketing and
yeah,
exactly when things need to get executed. We do the power of one. We wake up each day and we execute on one thing. We need to just chip away at the mountain. These companies, if you could only imagine, they probably have AI we aren't even familiar with
of course.
internally, using it to their full advantage, taking these people who are superhuman anyway and making them into superhuman, super saiyans, right? No,
AGI is coming out. Yeah, I still watch Dragon Ball Z.
so who's here to save the day? Who's going to continue to win in the next by the next podcast? What is going on? Because I personally, not financial advice, just keep doubling down and nibbling at the big six when it comes to my
Stock
stock
wise,
portfolio,
yep.
stock wise. Why? I keep thinking it's the top. They're worth 1.2 trillion. They're worth 1 trillion. They're worth 3 trillion. And if I want to double my money, they need to get to 6 and 5 trillion. But
Ridiculous numbers. Yeah,
it keeps happening.
yeah. So who's winning? Great. Big tech is definitely winning right now. They're going head to head. They're getting bad PR because of their funky events. But then there's some controversies. Microsoft and the billionaires invested in an AI company like over $1 billion. They couldn't acquire them. And so they just took on the entire team and said, great, we're going to license that, and you VCs will figure out how to give you money back because we can't acquire you, even though we want to. The big VCs are winning right now. Not so much a flight to safety, but a flight to the capital that's required to play the game. Are we in AI bubble? Yes.
Oh,
But
yeah.
why is a bubble formed? Because it's hype and so much pent up demand. Supply is tiny, demand, tens of billions of dollars have to invest. I was emailing back and forth with a popular tech writer about a company that's doing 100,000 daily active users, and they just raised 150 million at a billion, and like that's not amazing. 150,000
I
daily
take it.
active users,
Mhm.
it's great, no question, impressive, but that doesn't command $150 million round. And so I was emailing back and forth, just saying, well, where else would they put it? What we always joke
Yeah.
about is angels, it's your own capital, you don't have to invest. Family offices, it's your own capital, you don't have to invest. VCs, you raise capital, you have to
Have to.
invest. So if there's no great companies, you find a good one, you stuff it full of money.
Yeah.
You have to invest. So that's what we're seeing now. And everybody needs a horse in the race. I wrote, I don't know, 3 weeks ago about AI being a bubble. I was like, great. Why do you see every single day or week a new AI company raising 100 million, 250 million? Because there's 30 plus funds of a billion plus. And if
To
they didn't get
allocate.
into X, they need to get into Z. They need to get into AAB2, like some other offspring or some other engineer deep AI that left, right? They need a horse in the race. Maybe that's the winner, but their LPs are like, I gave you $100 million, your $3 billion fund. Why didn't you invest in AI? Well,
Yeah.
you said you have access. So there's definitely pressure there, but it's the big VCs winning. The small ones, us angels, we can't really compete in this space. I've gotten some flack on Twitter and on my newsletter, but I'm like, great, you're going to give an AI company $2 million? That's not AI. Come on, man.
Yeah. Direct to consumer founder point of view, things have just gotten too easy for competition to kick in not in the AI world. So
Yep.
anyone that can't penetrate the AI world, they're going after businesses that have some sort of footing, some sort of revenue that is working. I was on Shark Tank a million years ago, and how many of the Shark Tank companies are terrified, one, of TikTok going down, two, of TikTok itself, because if you're popular on TikTok, you're sure as hell going to get ripped off. And then,
Yep.
how many people are asking me about patents and, should I file a patent? Is it even worth filing a patent? And we've gotten to the point where, my answer to everyone now, it used to be, if you're faster and stronger, fine, that's a great start. Now, just be thrilled that somebody ripped you off and just
Right.
keep trying to be faster and smarter. It used to be the slogan, depending on the industry and business and product you've created, the longer you're in business, the longer
The
you're in
longer you're in
business.
business.
Now, in many cases, I just spoke to a startup where because we could have exited the business for 25 million, instead we're raising 6 million out of 25 million
Yep.
pre-money valuation. And I wanted to strangle him and these two gentlemen. I go, take the 25 million, two founders. You guys both own 50-50. You started this business 19 months ago. Take it. But instead
Yep.
they went the other route. And I guarantee if I follow up with them, they're going to think
Regret.
my night. Yeah, I'm not a good look. Because they're going to remember that I said that. I screamed in the middle of the party. You took it, right?
No, we're going to go
No,
big. I believe in this. I'm not going to sell out. Hey, when you're in it, I get it. We've had a few
same.
founders try and say I'm in it where I don't want to let my investors down. I want to let my team down. This is too early. I'm going big. It's life changing money though, so that's a difficult conversation. If they're 50-50 founders, they could have taken it, sat back, been fine. It's difficult because they wanted the bigger number 25. Oh, you sold for 25 million. Good for you. That's a good for
Hey, that's
you
life
number.
changing. That's
Right.
practically
But
generational.
like,
Didn't you just have a startup? They exited earlier than expected, but that's a multiple for us.
it is. And I don't want to say it's a failure from a perspective of the company. I was hoping with every investment, right, it's going to be a fund return and it'll be bigger. But when talking to the founder and the other investors, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It is. What, you're going to grind it out for another few years to maybe get twice as much? No. You have to think that, okay, move on, get the capital. These people have lives. When you talk about companies, selling, like there are founders, there are employees, there are the families of those people. They have to continue to grow. There's the investors. There's a lot of people involved, a lot of shares of that pie. So, yeah, it's good. Exits, we'll take what we can get these days because they are few and far between. I'm in a lot of VC chats, angel chats, family office chats, and it's dire. The information out there. There's no IPOs. There's no
Yeah.
M&A. So I don't want to sound like a complete pessimist, but like as you're saying, you're getting back to basics. It's clearing the forest where we're not done yet with this kind of startup apocalypse where companies that shouldn't have been funded got funded, companies that are in business probably shouldn't be anymore. Just can't shut it down. It's hard to shut down a business. And founders feel beholden. Multiple times, founders have come to us. I want to make right. I want to do right by my investors. I appreciate it. And we get it. But like, if you're not going to be $100 million billion company, we don't care. We don't. It really sucks. And I'm seeing VCs just write off other investments. That's what it is. It's business. It's capitalism. As you said, people are transparent. I'll talk to my founders all the time. Like, if I can't do anything, what am I supposed to do? I invested 25, 50,000. You raise millions of dollars. I'm a small check. I try and help, but there's only so much I can do. So that's where the early stage is going to hurt. You said who's winning? It's not emerging managers and it's not early stage startups. If you're not hitting any trajectory, if you're not showing potential, you're done. So it's kind of good and bad. I have companies doing millions in revenue. They're getting bridge rounds because it's like, you're kind of close. You just need to survive a little bit longer. You need to hit some metrics. Like we know that the bar has moved, the goalpost has moved. You will get that funding. Just hit these
Yeah.
metrics. So I'm making a lot of introductions, but people are kicking tires. Seed people are like, great, I'll write you off. Let me just start fresh. Just
Yeah.
here making more new investments. But all these emerging managers, it used to be a graduation rate. If you raise your first fund, about 50, 55%. Now there's, I guess, demand and supply where like also twice as many raised, but right now it's about 35%. So that's a few hundred funds that won't raise more. That's another 6,000 to 9,000 checks of probably 250 to a million that also won't be written. So in years to come, that's going to have a lot of implications.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling so many early stage founders who go, I need to raise money. And I go, do you need to raise money for what reason? Because you want to scale faster, but then the second you bring on institutional money, it changes the game.
Yep.
I like to remind people, I rather run a $4 million revenue business without any outside institutional pressure and make 20 to 40% margins on that business. I could live a decent life. And as you're
Yep.
building it kind of small, kind of practical. You're not getting in anybody's way. You're not making anybody too jealous. You're kind of being quiet, so nobody's really going to try and copy you. You're not doing enough that somebody feels threatened by you. I'm telling these founders just, maybe, that 50K that you have left, let's make this last. You
Yeah.
have a real business. Stop wanting to be that TV. Stop trying to be on that article. Stop trying to be someone that in many cases your business and yourself weren't meant to be. I
Yeah.
would rather run a $4 million business and make $2 million in gross profit instead of running a $40 million business that takes $50 million to run. Being
Yep.
in the fundraising world is not fun. You have to build, scale a business with all of the emotion, all the physical toll. Most people don't understand. I was on the road over 100 days a year when I first started my business because I built the business and growth. I raised capital in the growth at all cost error. And
Yep.
I had to travel the world and it's seven seas. I was jet lagged for 365 days. It
Yes.
was fun while it lasted, but as I iterated the business and my time throughout COVID, learning how to, be optimal at the bare minimum, learning how to make that $1 equal $100. I like to remind these founders, yes, I do tell people, yes, now that I have institutional backing, I am also in the exit business. But when I go on like acquire.com or some of these websites where you're purchasing people's businesses, I'm like, wait, this business is doing $2 million in revenue. The numbers say they're bringing in 40% of that in profit, which, maybe nobody's taking a salary or anything like that, and they're fudging their numbers a little bit. But what I'm referring to is they're doing 2 million in revenue, but the company's only worth 600K. That makes me just say, F it. I'm going to just keep building my business. And I still believe that we will have that big moment. Why? Because I have the tiers of business that business needs to survive.
Oh yeah.
That is subscription, loyal customers, we sell to retail, we sell distribution, we sell export, so international business, and we have a relatively sane margin business, and everything's been so greased up for so long. The relationships are excellent. And we have a B2B model as well, where we do sell to institutions. But I started my business big picture, go after the institutions because that's the big picture. Luckily, bright side, silver lining of COVID, it forced me to completely pivot my business into the direct to consumer world. And that actually pulled in enough cash flow to allow me to stay alive long enough for some of these business to business relationships to happen. The
Yep.
problem with business to business is it's not even shiny. It's just we know it's the bigger
Makes
picture.
money. Right.
Is that the bureaucracy of B2B in the United States is outrageous. When people tell me, we have this giant company in the pipeline, I go, cool. And it's
Good
better than
luck.
not having it in the pipeline. but it's going to take you
You're talking to
60
the
months to two
associate.
years.
Tell me when you talk to the VP.
And the VP has a VP, and the VP's got a boss, and that boss has a boss. So if there is a way, whether it's going to a trade show or spam LinkedIning everyone, or some sort of lukewarm introduction, go back to the basics because it's going to take a long time. Stop spending all your money on scaling on Meta. Stop trying to hire these fat agencies. I don't know how they sleep at night charging some of these startups 10, 15, $25,000 to build a basic website that we could find, if not do ourselves, for substantially cheaper. The game plan is already out there. The transparency is so transparent, just copy other people's business plans. I don't care what you sell. You need to be in the revenue, low expense, customers that are loyal, reoccurring, simple, stupid business.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I've
I
learned too
I
much too
concur.
quick.
Yeah, I concur. Too quick. You're a 7 year overnight success. You didn't learn it
I
too quick.
know.
Yep.
God, it hurts. It hurts, but at
Yeah.
least I learned. And now I'm looking at other founders and pounding them. It's not even guessing anymore. I'm telling you, this is what
Yes.
you need to do. And do not raise institutional capital if you don't have to. Most of these companies believe they have to because they're spending $15,000, $20,000 getting one-to-one, ROAS and return on their investment, a cost on their ads, trying to get to
Yep.
that number four. But I guarantee when you get 4x to $1, you're going to need 7x to $1 to be sustainable. Employees are expensive. Life now is relatively expensive. Run a sustainable business that has many outlets and really truthfully try all the outlets at the same time, but cut what isn't working, optimize what is working, and triple down on what's already working.
I agree. I was going to say the same thing. So I think there's some words of wisdom we should end this on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. So that is it for all of this. As you know, you can find us on the interwebs, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, that's really where I spend most of my time. WhatsApp, LinkedIn, add me, follow some
Yeah.
memes. But that's
Reach out
it.
to us. We love doing this. We're here to
Yeah.
be hard. We
I
came
text
to
with
the
so many random
conclusion.
people.
What? Let's end it here. It's not a fun game. You need to be mean, sort of. You need to be true and real to these
Yeah.
startups. I remember you were saying, everybody's too nice. They're coddling these startups. Oh my God, you're a
Good for
startup.
you.
Startups don't mean you're a baby. Startups should actually mean the complete opposite.
Yeah. It's
It's a
business.
war
It's
out
life.
there.
It's
It's just
capitalism. It
business.
is war. Yep, exactly. We are pawns and peasants compared to big tech.
Yep.
So
So it's
we'll
all
see
unite
everybody.
and fight back. If not, use
The
them to your full
uprising.
advantage.
Yes, the uprising against big tech. It will happen. We have no other choice in the coming years
Yeah, I'm happy they're American-based businesses, at least for now.
for now.
Startup Brothers.